Federalist number 3. The same subject continued. Concerning dangers from foreign force and influence for the Independent Journal. By John J. Video by Amanda Solomon. During 1787, the United States was on the cusp of either becoming more powerful or more divided than it had ever been in its short existence. The Constitution had been proposed to the states, and at least 9 would have to ratify it in order for the Constitution to become the active base of the government. Ultimately, a convention within each state would ratify the Constitution, so in order to persuade the general populace to vote in favor of it, a collection of 85 essays were written and published in newspapers in New York under the pen name Publius. These essays became the Federalist Papers, authored by Alexander Hamilton, John Jay, and James Madison. John Jay was an adamant Federalist in the much divided state of New York. Jay wrote essays number 2, 3, 4, 5, and 63. In the case of Federalist number 3, the main point of the essay was to show the general public how the ratification of the Constitution would create a more stable society within the United States, and how it would also secure the safety of the nation from foreign powers and corruption. Federalist number 3 stresses the importance of unity and national safety, which the Constitution could secure if the citizens of the United States would put aside their different intentions and ratify the Constitution for the good of the nation's future. In the first paragraph of Federalist number 3, John Jay argues that the people of America are very opinionated. He writes, "It is not a new observation that the people of any country, if like the Americans, intelligent and well-informed, seldom adopt and steadily persevere for many years in an erroneous opinion respecting their interests. That consideration naturally tends to create great respect for the high opinion which the people of America have so long and uniformly entertained of the importance of their continuing firmly united under one federal government, vested with sufficient powers for all general and national purposes. Among the many objects to which a wise and free people find it necessary to direct their attention, that of providing for their safety seems to be first." Americans at that time were highly opinionated, and while that was often a good quality, an excess of this would result in the split of the nation. Having a strong opinion led to Americans demanding their rights from the British government, the American Revolution, and ultimately the creation of the United States. At that point, though, many of the citizens of America were more loyal to their state governments and immediate wants than to their national governments and the needs of the nation as a whole. State governments were more interested in the protection of their own powers, and wanted to limit the powers of the national government as much as possible. Jay argues that a stronger national government would be able to protect the citizens of the United States better than the individual states could by themselves. This could be shown through the failure of the Massachusetts government to put down Shays' Rebellion in 1786, which was a popular revolt led by Daniel Shays in the western portion of Massachusetts. During this rebellion, Massachusetts frontiersmen were able to shut down several local courthouses and successfully resisted the local militia before finally being shut down more than a year later. This caused a sharp rise in the opinion that the national government under the Articles of Confederation simply were not strong enough to secure the safety of the nation as a whole. With the addition of the executive branch in the Constitution, the national government could secure the safety of the people effectively. Furthermore, the Newburgh Conspiracy in 1783 could have been avoided if the central government had the right to tax under the Articles of Confederation. This shows that if the central government had been stronger earlier on, it could have protected the citizens of the United States from internal threats more effectively. The safety of the nation could not be obtained without a stronger national government to harmonize with the state governments. Jay was clearly a moderate throughout his political career, and therefore did not want an oppressive central government that would take away the state's powers completely. And because Jay had lived through the American Revolution, he would have known how important it was to have a strong united people, which the government could provide and protect. Further on in Federalist 3, Jay writes that the number of wars which have happened or will happen in the world will always be found in proportion to the number and weight of the causes, whether real or pretend, which provoke or invite them. If this remark be just, it becomes useful to inquire whether so many causes of war are likely to be given by the United States as by a disunited America. It should turn out that the United America will probably give the fewest. The just causes of war, for the most part, arise either from violation of treaties or from direct violence. America has already formed treaties with countries. All of them, except Prussia, are maritime, and therefore able to annoy and injure us. Jay means that wars are always caused by a provocation, and that having a united America will lower the numbers of wars that will afflict the American people. Furthermore, wars can be either started on just means or unjust means, and Jay defines these as a violation of treaties or direct violence. While America was united, the only war that broke out was the Revolutionary War. However, Jay reasoned that while America was divided and unstable, calls for war would break out more often. Most often, conflicts with Britain were the cause for the call of war. During the 1780s and 1790s, British ships would often stop American merchant ships and impress sailors whom they claimed to be British deserters. Furthermore, after the Treaty of Paris of 1783, even when the British promised to remove all presence from the Northwest Territories, British forts were still maintained there, and this angered many Americans, especially frontiersmen. This would anger frontiersmen the most because British forts would constantly supply Native Americans with guns and means of defending their homes from the American settlers. Finally, conflicts with Spain over the closing of the Mississippi River to America was very damaging to the economy of the United States at the time, and would continue to damage the economy until the Louisiana Purchase under Jefferson's administration. All of these causes fall under just reasons to go to war, but with a stronger government, Jay argued that even just reasons could be resolved peacefully. Jay, because he was a moderate, was therefore more opposed to war and more inclined to resolve arguments with peaceful measures. Furthermore, Jay had been present at the negotiations for the Treaty of Paris of 1783, and would therefore know the exact parts of the treaty that Britain had broken after the Revolution ended. Moreover, both Jay's father and grandfather were merchants in New York, and therefore Jay would have been familiar with the instances of impressment that had been going on since before the American Revolution. Jay also presses that a strong national government would be able to balance out any corruption at the state level, saying that because the prospect of present loss or advantage may often tempt the governing party in one or two states to swerve from good faith and justice, but those temptations, not reaching the other states and consequently having little or no influence on the national government, the temptation will be fruitless, and good faith and justice be preserved. The case of the Treaty of Peace with Britain adds great weight to this reasoning, because even if the governing party in a state should be disposed to resist such temptations, yet as such temptations may, and commonly do, result from circumstances peculiar to the state, and may affect the great number of the inhabitants, the governing party may not always be able, if willing, to prevent the injustice meditated, or to punish the aggressors. The national government, not being affected by those local circumstances, will neither be induced to commit the wrong themselves, nor want power or inclination to prevent or punish its commission by others. Jay argues that ratifying the Constitution will allow the federal government to be able to flesh out corruption by keeping the states equal to each other, and with the federal government presiding over the states, would be able to make decisions that would benefit the whole of the nation and not just a single part. Jay acknowledges that the state governments were vulnerable to acting in the way that would best benefit their own area of the country, but with a strong central government, the states would work together to reach a compromise that would ultimately benefit the entire nation. Therefore, the national government could secure the safety of the nation as a whole, even if that meant giving up small state rights in the process to ensure the fidelity of the state governments. During the Revolutionary War and directly after, the states were especially susceptible to the wavering opinions of the people. Many states continued to operate independently under the Articles of Confederation, acting more like a loose confederation of states instead of a single nation. This is most evident in the actions of Rhode Island during this time, as well as Pennsylvania's treatment of the Newburgh Conspiracy. In 1781, Rhode Island refused to endorse a tariff that would help bring up national revenue, and therefore pay for the enormous debt that the country was facing, claiming that the tariff would threaten the liberties of the country. Furthermore, Rhode Island made it a state crime for merchants to refuse their nearly worthless currency. Additionally, during the Newburgh Conspiracy, former revolutionary soldiers threatened to hold the Congress hostage. Congress asked Pennsylvania for a small militia to protect them, but Pennsylvania refused to do so. This showed how the corruption of the state governments hurt the rights of the people, ultimately could have run the country into the ground in its early years due to the massive amount of debt and internal threats the nation faced if the Constitution had not been ratified. Jay argued that when the Constitution was finally ratified, the national government would be able to settle disputes in a more peaceful manner, and would be able to guarantee the rights of both the citizens and the state. Finally, John Jay writes that in the year 1685, the state of Genoa, having offended Louis XIV, endeavored to appease him. He demanded that they should send their doge, or chief magistrate, accompanied by 4 of their senators, to France to ask his pardon and receive his terms. They were obligated to submit to it for the sake of peace. Would he on any other occasion either have demanded or have received the like humiliation from Spain or Britain or any other powerful nation? By By saying this, Jay showed the American public that without a strong federal government, outside nations viewed them as weak and insignificant. Therefore, he could leave Americans thinking just how powerful they really were while divided and more concerned with their own issues than with the prosperity and safety for the entire United States. Overall, Federalist Paper 3, written by John Jay, stresses the importance of national unity among all Americans, and the national security that could result from a strong national government under the Constitution. Without a strong national government, the safety of the people would be compromised, and thus the rights of the citizens would be infringed upon. Finally, with the last sentence of Federalist 3, Jay hits closest to home with his recount of the dealings with a powerful nation with a weaker one. With the ratification of the Constitution, the United States would be able to build up its power and international prowess to rival that of Spain, France, and England, and ultimately have enough power to protect the citizens of the United States from both external and internal